Fresh rounds of blasts have been heard across Tehran after Trump's ceasefire announcement. That is crazy, bro. But that's why you can't trust people. Let's go and jump into this video immediately. This is a suggestion via channel member.
We are living in an age of information warfare, and it is war and diplomacy via Truth Social when it comes to Donald Trump. In the last few moments, the Commander-in-Chief, the US President, posted that Israel and Iran had agreed to a ceasefire. That happened about an hour ago. This is
like a time release ceasefire.
How it read. It was long. It said, congratulations to everyone. It's been fully agreed by Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire. It goes on and on to lay out a convoluted timeline. So the timeline is interesting indeed. If we bring it up on the screen now.
Yeah, guys, like looking at it, it's absolutely crazy because it's like, bro, a ceasefire should be like a ceasefire. Like, guys, we have to stop right now. I don't care whatever, the projects you basically had left over because, guys, it should end immediately. Let's end it right now. No time release, nothing, bro. Okay.
It means that there would be a real countdown to the ceasefire. That would mean at around 2 p.m. today, this is Australian time, Australian Eastern time, Iran and Israel would complete final missions. That is ominous. Then by 8 o'clock tonight, the ceasefire to officially begin for 12 hours. Following that, it would mean by 8 a.m. tomorrow, war would be considered over if the ceasefire holds. So there are a lot of caveats in that. It is convoluted and we are waiting on official confirmation from both Iran and Israel on what the terms are. JD Vance was also on Fox News America. He was pretty positive about the move.
When I left the White House, I thought that we might be able to get it across the finish line before this broadcast, and it looks like the president has been able to do that. I mean, look, he's been working the phones constantly. Frankly, before the 12-day war started, but certainly over the past 12 days, the president's been extremely clear about America's national objective here. It is to create a world where Iran cannot build a nuclear weapon.
We've yet to receive official confirmation, of course, on whether Israel or indeed Iran has accepted the terms of this ceasefire.
Okay.
Meantime, a fresh round of blasts have been heard across Tehran. CNN reporter Fred Pleitgen gave this update a short time ago.
The Iranians were shooting very intensely at something that was in the skies. We also tonight, again, Anderson, heard planes flying over the location that we're in, and then some pretty loud explosions to a location south of us. So that certainly seemed to indicate that there were Israeli jets in the air and that they were making several passes at whatever they were trying to bomb here in the fairly central part of the city. The Israelis, of course, had issued evacuation orders for 2 districts here in Tehran, and that was actually also exactly where we saw that tracer fire into the air coming from as well, and where we heard those explosions also. And you alluded to the fact that it has already been a pretty intense day. There was one massive airstrike directly in the vicinity of where we are right now that really shook the buildings that we're in. We had to then take cover. When we emerged from our cover, the entire sky of the Iranian capital to the west of us was in thick black smoke. So that clearly a major strike that took place. Now, as far as that ceasefire is concerned, earlier, a senior Iranian official said that the Iranians had not gotten any sort of proposal about a ceasefire. They were not expecting one. They also said, and they were in fact saying that they were going to intensify their retaliatory strikes, of course, first and foremost, meaning against the Israelis for some of the airstrikes that we've been seeing here. We've not seen the situation quiet down since then, but certainly as of right now, there's no indication that the Iranians are expecting that a ceasefire is going to happen soon. But one thing that we certainly are seeing is that in this night, the Israelis seem to be ramping up their aerial campaign. The Iranians obviously ramping up their defense that they're trying to mount of that aerial campaign. And of course, you had those strikes against the LUD base, which the Iranians earlier today, this was on state media, but this was also official channels as well. They called it robust and successful. And one of the things that was a key line that the Iranians were putting out is that they were saying that on that base, they fired exactly as many missiles there as the Americans dropped on Iranian nuclear installations. Of course, that could indicate that that was a tit-for-tat response.
Yeah, guys. Okay, so it definitely feels like I Iran wasn't even in the meeting, or let's say they weren't even on the call when the United States of America and Israel sat down and said, we're going to go ahead and agree to a ceasefire. But it doesn't seem like they were even in the meeting here. So how is this a ceasefire? How is that?
Yeah, so Fred
There's some
Plankin, one of
issues
the
here.
only Western journalists in Tehran, so extraordinary access there and an extraordinary view of what is going on inside of Iran. Let's go to...
Yeah, the problem is with this, I want to kind of respond to the statement that she made here before we pass on this here. The problem with CNN being in specifically Iran is that they are just there to push propaganda. And you can tell by looking at some of the videos that are coming from them. They are basically trying to characterize like direct targeted strikes on members, let's say, of the higher upper class, let's say military. They're trying to say that these individuals didn't get basically taken out in some of these residential areas. Instead of saying residential areas are being targeted, that's what they're trying to say to the American public. But that's just not the case here. It's just that one singular incidence of the guy that needed to basically go away.
To Tel Aviv now. Jonathan
The big bad guy,
joins
let's
us.
say.
He's a former IDF spokesperson. I believe you're still there. Jonathan, it's very early there. I really appreciate it. What is the latest information you have from the ground there in Israel? Has Benjamin Netanyahu agreed to the terms of the ceasefire as Trump has laid them out?
So good morning to you. As far as I'm aware, no, that has not yet happened. I think that the Israeli cabinet
Where did this come
is
from, guys?
deliberating exactly that topic as we're speaking, or they may have just concluded deliberating.
Okay.
And this is now an interesting time. That's politically, but militarily, I'll say a few things before that. We've had a relatively quiet night. The last time that we were in bomb shelters was several hours ago. There were 4 UAVs that were fired from Iran or dispatched from Iran that were intercepted outside of Israeli airspace. So Israelis have had an abnormally quiet night, which of course is always welcome. But at the political level, we're now at an interesting time because this may be the first time that we will see Israeli interests diverge from US political directives. I think Israel believes and feels that there is still a lot of work that needs to be done against the IRGC, against their ballistic missiles, and against their ability to continue to fund and arm terror organizations. But now the U.S. is saying that there's a ceasefire. So we'll see how this is, what the middle ground can be for Israel.
Okay, so what is the objective here? What is the wish list if the US was to acquiesce fully to it? Is it regime change? Is it the killing of the Ayatollah? What else is on that list?
Oh, we know that's there.
Yeah, I think
Trump is against it.
Regime change has been spoken about a lot. It was never an official Israeli goal, and Israel hasn't really done things to put it into effect directly. But I think it is something of a hope that Israel will be able to live without an enemy country with a regime that appears to be fixated and just consumed by hatred towards Israel and really hell-bent on Israel's destruction. So it is a big deal here. Yes, the nuclear infrastructure and the weapons program was number one and paramount, but I think Israel wants to achieve long-term change for the better.
Sure.
There's many things to say about so-called regime change. I think it's evident and very clear that it can only happen by the Iranian people. Maybe
Absolutely.
the regime can be weakened sufficiently in order for the Iranian people to do what's good for them in a way that they decide, not that anybody from the outside will decide.
Yeah, because then you're just creating a brand new dictator. Like regime changes are terrible. Okay, it's not even about being like super politically correct here, guys. I mean, we have a track record of attempting this and absolutely failing miserably in every single instance that we've tried this. Look at currently Central America and South America. Like, look at all of the issues that we have created in that region to the point where people bombard our southern border because we have destabilized their entire nation. Okay, so like, the last thing you need to do is install someone that exclusively has interest for the country, let's say, that has dominated them, and not the actual people. This is silly. This is counterproductive. It is not beneficial to the people of that nation. It is its own. It is its own separate sovereign nation, and you really don't have much of a right to install anything in that nation. Okay, so if you want a regime change, example, you're going to have to, under all circumstances, support the people of Iran in finding something that works best for them. Okay, not best for you or anyone else. It has to be them.
And maybe now, if there's a ceasefire, revolutions, they usually don't happen during war. They usually happen after war, when things settle down a bit, and then it becomes more dangerous for autocratic regimes to stay in power.
We're seeing new explosions reported in Tehran. This is less than 4 hours after this ceasefire is set to begin. I'm not entirely sure how you phase in such a ceasefire. Obviously, Donald Trump has given both sides, or wanted to appear to give both sides, some breathing room to finish the mission, whatever that is. If these explosions are being seen in Tehran at the moment,
right now,
let's assume that it is Israel still striking those military targets. After those 3 nuclear sites were hit, what would it be hitting now?
Oh, there's an abundance of military targets that are valuable and good to strike from an Israeli perspective in Tehran. It could be IRGC command centers, it could be weapons facilities, it could be personnel, senior leadership or otherwise. I don't think that Israel is trying to eliminate Khamenei, but let's wait for the dust to settle and see. Maybe we'll be surprised. I don't think that that is what we're seeing. But, the regime still has many, many military assets, and that I assume is what Israel is striking. But I think we'll be entering a stage now, and this is where it really is interesting. How will this the ceasefire be implemented on the ground, and what will the conditions be for Israel to stick to it? Will we see something similar to the situation in Lebanon, where there's a ceasefire, but Israel continues to defend itself and implement what it needs to do in order to limit Hezbollah? Will we do the same thing with Iran? Of course, the distances are bigger and the stakes are higher. But this is, you blink and you miss half a century of important events over the last week in the Middle East.
Yeah, not.
Okay, guys. Okay, I can't imagine this ending well. I don't see how a ceasefire is going to work in this scenario, because now you just removed, any defenses that Iran basically has. And the fact that you're still taking out targets, okay, after you realize that they no longer have any real nuclear ability, you're making a secondary, let's say, another sovereign nation to have no ability to defend itself. When is it going to be enough, right? When is it going to be enough? They now no longer have the ability to take you out in any type of nuclear form or fashion. Now the goal just seems to... and they're down, all right, and I get it. Their ruling party is going to spread nothing but propaganda to their people, inciting a base, right, exciting it, right. But when is it enough, bro? When is it enough? Because it's not really it's not super beneficial. Because imagine if there's a single life that was basically lost, and another one of their relatives that that had their lives lost. Are still alive, let's say. I can't imagine them being completely fine and happy with the people who did it. And again, the people of Iran have nothing generally to do with the government. So now you're creating a brand new enemy you didn't even know existed, because they haven't even formed yet, right? And it normally happens in these type of scenarios where the descendants of the people that lost their lives, in a couple of decades, you pop up, and now you have a whole new entity of individuals who are just hell-bent legitimately on destroying you. So what did you do? Buy time? Guys, I don't know how this ceasefire makes sense here, okay? Specifically, if neither of the parties sat down at the table, who created this? Right? Because Israel specifically is not going to listen to the White House. They only want our weapons, right? They want the secondary defense for the most part, right? and the abilities that our military have. Basically, that's basically it. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is that they don't listen to us, right? They want our stuff, is because of simple reasons. Trump basically said, "Do not touch the supreme leader." Like, we don't need that to happen. You don't need to, do not do that, right? And then what does Israel say in return? Netanyahu dictates that that's not off the table. So what exactly is going on here? Iran hasn't agreed to any type of ceasefire. Israel hasn't. Israel is still bombarding targets, after the United States of America have come through and dropped MOPs. What's happening here? Right? Like, Iran already is going to have no ability to really defend itself any longer. If you take if you pick apart all of their defenses, you're leaving a country that has no ability to defend itself under any circumstance. Like, fear makes sense. I mean, if you're afraid that they are going to come out one day and attempt to destroy you, but you can't touch civilians, bro. You get what I'm saying here? Because, like, we created a brand new 4-letter organization out in the Middle East a couple of decades ago, from going out there and messing with people, bro. Okay? That's what we did. And it starts with an I. Okay, let's say that. We created that due to the craziness that we did out there. So what do you think is going to come from this type of scenario here? Right? It has to be enough now, bro. Okay? I'm just a random guy on the internet. I know that, right? But enough. Okay? Iran, listen, they need to stop too, okay? Both of the parties need to basically stop here. But obviously, in terms of who has the most firepower, et cetera, it's Israel, because we gave it to them, right? So it's just like, I'm trying to put words together here nicely. We just need this to end, okay? We need to get our interest, for us specifically, right? And it definitely feels like Netanyahu is not really interested at all in any circumstances, let's say, in listening to any of our advice, just using our weaponry. But all right, listen, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think. You guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. If you guys are new here, please like and subscribe.